Okay. Show.
I like to dissect girls. Did you know I'm utterly insane?
Now clear your minds. Notice what scares you.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Kill you all. I'll drive you crazy. I'll kill you all.
What's blood for? It's not for shedding.
I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains.
Your suffering will be legendary, even in hell.
The blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
Look at me, Damien. It's all for you.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
Why do you eat people?
Not people. Brains.
The boogeyman is real, and you found it.
Welcome back to the Skewered Universe Podcast. My name is Jeff, and there is no Leanne with me this time, but it is First Watch February. And if you've been keeping an eye on the socials or you heard the last episode, you know that we have something special coming tonight. Let me just throw it out there. It also coincides with Black History Month, which for me is awesome because this gives me a chance to learn, you guys a chance to learn. And that's why our guest tonight is very important, very special. If you have ever listened to Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out, or the joint Sit Down the Hard Way, you have heard this person. Antione Raphael is here, and we're going to talk about sinners. Antoine, how are you doing?
I am doing great. I'm really glad to be here. It's so excited to be here, especially for the topic du jour that we have tonight. Yes.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And this all came about just from a mutual of ours throwing it out in a chat. And we both went, well, yeah, this, Lisa, a.k.a. misfitmess, who, if anyone's listened to the Halloween episodes last year, she was on for the Bob's Burger stuff. She's kind of the genesis of all this coming together.
Yes, I would definitely have to say that. I saw misfitmess, who is not a mess, by the way. Shout out, Lisa. You're the best. You are awesome. And you're responsible for all this. So if I bomb, I'm blaming you. But she put the message in. Hey, Antoine would be really good as a guest to talk about sinners. And I was like, no way I wouldn't be. No. And then my guy hits me up. So you know what? I think that's actually a good idea. And it's like, oh no. Sometimes my anxiety does get the best of me. I was thrilled when you asked me, and I could not pass up this opportunity.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'm glad you were down to do it, anxiety aside, and I get that. Because even now when I have new people on, such as yourself, because we haven't done any of this before. I mean, I've seen you and heard you on SD Sumo, all that. I'm like, he's really good guest. He knows what he's talking about. I would love, and then this just happened to come up. So I'm like, okay, we got to do this. And anxiety, I get it. When I started co-hosting on the second show I do, my anxiety was through the roof, like the very first time. So I
just happen to be a horror nerd on top of that. So it's just like a double win.
So before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about that. So what is your experience with horror? Is it just a lifelong thing? Did you come to it later? Is it like something you saw as a kid and just kind of embraced it?
I think most of it comes from the fact that I was watching movies that I don't think little kids should be watching. Trying to understand Hellraiser as a child, The Unholy. My parents loved a lot of older movies like The Exorcist and stuff like that. So I really became a horror lover. Sure, the blood and the guts. That's what started it off first. Probably not normal. You'd think I would be not a well-adjusted person, but I consider myself well-adjusted. And I think as I've grown over the years, it's turned from more just a love of blood and guts into a love of societal discussions that take place within horror movies that people sometimes look over. And what they're doing is they're telling someone once told me, and I believe this very much, for some people, horror is horror. They could not imagine this thing really happening. For others, horror is just real life. Movies like Get Out, it's just real life. Movies like Stephen King's The Long Walk, that's just real life. The Trail of Tears, I mean, they made them walk all that way, and they died all that way. And it's just evolved. And I think that this is a unique time in horror's history where I do believe that you're going to see a lot more melding of discussions such as this in the form of horror. Because, quite frankly, we're living in it.
True.
But if you were to ask me, and you didn't, but I'm going to answer anyway, favorite horror movie of all time would have to be the original Night of the Living Dead. Followed very closely by Stephen King's It, the new.
Mhm.
Because it's a movie that says the most powerful message of all. And he sits, and I've always been a Romero fan ever since. It'll never come out of my mind that this black man goes through all hell, and then the moment he walks out, the real monsters shoot him in the head. And you're talking about at a time when there was no rating system. Nobody wanted to see that type of movie, and he's partly responsible for it. So I will always rest in peace, Mr. Romero. He will always be GOAT.
I'm a huge Romero fan as well. That first Night of the Living Dead is held in high regard by myself as well, especially for the fact that at a time when nobody was casting black actors in any leading role, that you have Dwayne Jones knock out this role, and for anyone who's just watching the movie and picking up on everything, you don't sit there and go, oh, he's black. At a certain point, you're like, he's just a guy trying to survive. You don't see...
Trying to survive, exactly.
And it's not done with like a stereotypical, as other movies would have done.
Over dramatized, took his death and made it into a spectacle. Instead, it just, like he was just one of those monsters who were mindless. That's how they saw him. That's how they saw us.
And it's really it's really fucked up when you think about all that. It's like, but yeah, I agree with you. The end of the movie is like, the first time I saw it growing up, I was like, oh man, this is really, really a good movie. And then the repeated watches as I get older and I pick up on the other parts of the story, you start to realize that, yeah, the zombies were a threat, but are they really as much a threat as those drunken rednecks who were just waiting for an excuse to shoot anyone that didn't look like them?
Exactly. And that's the type of thing that Romero was trying to say. And I think it's something that is not actually given him enough credit over the years. He did it with Dawn. He did it with Dawn of the Dead. He did it with Day of the Dead. Heck, he did it with Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead. They all had something important to say about the time, about the country. Oh, my only regret is he did not get to make the Resident Evil movie that he wanted to make. That broke my heart.
I wish they would have just given him the keys to the car at that point, been like, do it. Because as much as I enjoy that Resident Evil movie, just for the factor that it's just
the first one,
shit insane, I wish we would have got the Romero version. I just have a feeling it would have been so much like the game instead of whatever the hell it was we got. That first one, it is batshit. Oh, for some reason,
it is batshit. Just, I don't know what to make of it, except for the fact that I saw it so many times as a kid that I think I just kind of like, it got ingrained in me as it was good.
Mm-hmm.
But I do give it credit for just bringing us the wonder that is Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah. I agree there. I'll agree there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also, going back to Romero real quick, that original trilogy, and I say that as someone who really does enjoy Land of the Dead as much as people kind of crap on that. I don't remember a lot about Diary of the Dead. I've never seen, what was the other one? Survival of the Dead?
Survival of the Dead. Mm-hmm.
But talking about those original three, each of those movies has one thing in common if you watch them all. A strong black person who is not a stereotype, who makes it to the end of the film, but is rational and logical and understands what is happening and doesn't, they don't, like I said, they don't fall prey to being a stereotype.
There it is right there. Perfect. There it is. They don't fall. They're not written as stereotypical. I know that I think it's Night of the Demons from the 80s is credited as the very first movie where the black character survives till the end. But I always still give most of the credit still to Romero because he wrote real people.
Mm-hmm.
They may not have lived, but they died with dignity, they died with grace, and when they died with logic.
Mm-hmm.
It served a purpose. It wasn't just to get you out of the way and to fill the cast of characters and the body count that you need to have.
Exactly. And I've heard people say, because in that original Dawn, Peter makes it to the end. Now, after they take off in the helicopter, we don't know. But people will go, well, I don't know if you could really say you survived, because the original plan was to have him kill himself. I'm like, but that wasn't the one that was committed to celluloid. The ending we got was him not doing that and going out there and saying, like, you know what? I'm going to try and survive as long as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a much better ending that way, I feel. Because regardless of what their fate is in that helicopter from that point, he made it through it. It wasn't a cop-out to just kill him at the end and be like, oh, well, he got weak and killed himself or anything like that. So I think there was also a bit he felt responsible for taking care of Fran at that point. Because she had the babies, like, Flyboy's gone. Roger's gone. I'm the only guy she's got left. So if she's going to make it, I need to be there.
Mm-hmm. So even with the ambiguity left with that ending, you're left with the sense of a person who's going off into an unknown, we don't know. And some people can go with what was not committed to cellular. Well, actually, the actuallys.
Mm-hmm.
He chose to do what I think a lot of us today, what he's trying to say, which is no matter it looks dire as heck. It really does look dire, but we never give up. We still fight. We're not going down without a fight. And that is what he's trying to say, trying to convey. And I think that also goes with what he's trying to convey when it comes to the Black experience as well, which is we will not stop fighting. We will not ever give up.
Well said. Well said. I'm speechless because I don't have anything to add because I have not lived that experience. All I can do is listen to what you have to say, telling me what that experience is, and then learning from it and just being able to stand beside you in that fight.
Isn't that what it's supposed to be about, though? And I think that's what a lot of my wonderful sickos understand. That is the whole point. You're not supposed to know. They didn't want you to know. You're not going to know. There's some Black people who don't even know. They didn't put it in the books. They didn't put it in the schools. It is the duty of the individual who doesn't know to know. Take your time and find out. Meet some people. Learn. Listen. We listen, not just listen, but it reminds me of White Men Can't Jump way back in the day when they're sitting in the car and Wesley Snipes is talking to Woody and they turn on Jimi Hendrix. And if I remember correctly, he says, "You don't get Jimmy. I love Jimmy." You hear Jimmy, but are you listening to Jimmy? And in that sense, it's the same here. Do you hear me? You hear me? Are you listening? Are you listening? And the most important thing you can do is really, what would you do for a loved one? You would stand beside them. You would fight for them. Would you not fight for what was right? If I told you I wasn't black, but I was oppressed and all this stuff was happening to me, and then I just said, they're white, you would be horrified. So, this is what black Americans do need. This is the point that we are at, where we stand together. Not stand behind. We stand together and learn.
If someone like me is not open to learning, then what the hell? Just shut up and go away if you're not wanting to learn. Instead of being an obstacle, just get the hell out of the way if you're not willing to learn. Go to an island unto yourself. If you've done enough damage already, we don't need it anymore.
Willful ignorance. It is the worst thing in the world that could ever be. There's such a stigma. I'm very big on words. Words mean something. They have power. Every single word has power. Ignorance is not bad. Ignorance, by definition, is you just don't know something, and it's not your fault that you don't know. Willful ignorance is when you finally get to that point where you just decide you don't want to know. That's when, really, honestly, you might as well. You're a lost cause to me.
Yeah, they just don't get they just want to put their blinders on and be like, nope. If I don't see it, it's not. It's like, come on, you're making
which is exactly how
a conscious decision.
And if you really think about it, just that statement that you made, which was wonderful, which was, you put your blinders on and just hope it doesn't happen. Well, 1930s America.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much America, going all the way back, and exactly in 1932 when this movie was set.
Yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better way to get into this, to start talking about Sinners.
I've been all over this world. I seen men die in ways I ain't even know was possible. Love you, brother. Be careful. I will. With all the things that I've seen, I ain't ever seen no demons, no ghosts, no magic. Till now. Now get back inside. Let me in, man. Some weird shit going on out here. You keep dancing with the devil. One day he's gonna follow you home.
So, full disclosure, I don't think we can do justice to this film if we don't spoil it in the end. So, if you haven't seen the movie at this point, stop this right here. Go watch Sinners at least once, like I have.
Please.
And then come back, because we're going to have an open discussion about everything here.
Yes. I think you would be best served to watch the movie first.
I want to say off the bat, for just it being my first watch, this movie is not only excellent, but it's more than a horror movie. I'm going to outright. It's way more than just a horror movie. Like I heard horror people talking about this is a great horror movie. I'm like, okay. But then I hear people such as yourself going, it's more than that. And I'm like, ooh, intriguing because that's what horror should be. Like I said,
Yes.
look at Get Out, for example. I have watched that movie probably more than 20 times at this point, and every time I watch it, there is something new I pick up on that just gives me a little bit more insight to, and I'm not trying to sound like I understand it, but a little more insight into the Black experience of things like this. And in a neighborhood like that, in a situation like that, it's like, oh, I can see why this would be an uncomfortable situation. I can see
Exactly
why.
the point. Right.
There are those videos on TikTok, like, you're never alone when a white person's around. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's... So, yeah, the more I watch things like that, and Sinners is one of those I have to rewatch because there's so much going on. I want to pick up on more of that.
There is layers upon layers upon layers. I would even go as far as to say that Sinners, excuse me, is more of a study about the United States of America and the Black experience in 1932. And it's a horror movie.
Mm-hmm. It just happens to be a horror movie as well.
It just happens to be a horror movie. Same thing with Get Out. I remember I was talking to a fellow employee of mine, and we were talking about Get Out, and they said, "Have you seen it?" It's like, yes, it's one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. It was a horror movie? I said, yes, that was absolutely a horror movie. Did they understand why? No, I just walked away and went about my day. But the best thing any horror movie can be is to teach a lesson, is to teach you about something in reality. And that's what this movie did from the opening credits.
Just the way this film starts, you're just like, whoa, wait a minute. What is going on? Because you see a person drive up in a car, get out, and just fucked up. Like, what is happening? Goes into the church, and you're just like, what? And then we get one day earlier. And normally that's a trope that I'm like, oh, okay.
Normally that does make me groan just slightly. Okay, we're going backwards here.
But with this one, I'm like, you know what? You set it up in a way that I am so intrigued. I'm like, okay, let's take that journey back. And the most beautiful part of when we go to that day before is we don't immediately get to the villains of the piece or the protagonist of the piece. We're given time with the twins, the Smokestack twins, with everyone in this town, and they're letting you see how life is, especially the divide in that town where one side of the street is all white people and the other side is all black and the Asians over there. And they are not conversing or looking at each other at all. And you're like, that feels so real and so just like, ugh.
It makes it makes your skin crawl just a tad bit, just a little bit, because you get to see in real time what it was like, what segregation was like, what it was like in the 1930s, literally over here and over here. And you darn well better believe that the produce was better on that side. Some of the things I love just from those first 10, 15 minutes till you get to the town is the African traditions that they decided to really focus on. The griots, for instance, that is a West African religious faithful preacher. And I loved the way that Sinners shows the very diametrically opposed views of what a vampire is. On the European side, you do have they're more romanticized. They want to live forever, ever. On the West African spiritual side, it's a curse. It's evil because what's happening is you're not going home with your ancestors. So you're trapped here forever, just like Smoke said, you're trapped here forever with this hate. And you're telling me that you're going to be happier over time? I highly doubt it. And fun fact, the myth of the vampire was not started with Vlad the Impaler, otherwise known as Dracula. The oldest vampire in world history is Sekhmet, who was Egyptian and was a vampire.
Did not know that. So I appreciate you bringing that up because now I have learned something. Because everything we've known has been like, oh, Vlad the Impaler, that's the story of where it came from. And I was always like, what? It just seems kind of out of nowhere in a way.
Yes,
So,
it did.
Again, it's kind of taking something from somewhere else and going, well, we can just make it our own. And that's, and you would think I was someone who really enjoyed like Egyptology and Egyptian myths for a while, along with Greek mythology and that. So I wish I would have come across that a lot sooner and a lot earlier when I was reading into all that stuff. That is
I
fascinating.
was like, wow, one of the fun things I like to do in life is go when somebody says like a myth or let's just a fantastical creature is I'll go, I wonder if that's an African lore because 9 times out of 10 the origins are going to be in African lore, which is of course the helm of civilization. It's been written about before. You mentioned like the streets and how they were so divided. I was doing some research and I wanted to just see about the Japanese and the Asian experience at that time in the United States. And it's very interesting. Like you see the wife later on when she's looking for her husband to dance and he's gambling. And even in the most fantastic scene in the movie, the musical scene, there's nothing there. There will never be a scene like that in a movie ever again. Never. Oh my gosh. But in that they had an individual dancing in Japanese, authentic traditional Japanese wear. So I decided to look it up, and that was a tough time for Asian Americans, particularly Japanese, to become, they wanted to meld their cultures, the Japanese culture with American culture. And that's kind of hard when you see life like this over here and then life like that over there. So they did their best to try and be in the middle. And you see how that can get you kind of sometimes in trouble. And also why black people will always love things like the Wu-Tang Clan forever. But just to even go back to the beginning of the film, I thought that the real star of the entire film was the blues.
Yeah, hands down, hands down.
Hmm.
There's so much discussion of the blues and what it means, and you start getting the deeper meaning behind it all. That it's not just a style of music; it's an expression of not only of the black experience at that time, but the oppression and the history going back to Africa, that's where everything is basically started. The traditions there, which led into blues and such like that. And it's really, really amazing to see that on display. And it's also cool to see like the younger blues musician and the older kind of finding common ground at some point. Whereas like Dylan was like, well, you don't really understand the blues. You're too young. You wouldn't get it. And then when he hears him, he's like, oh, okay, you do understand. You do see where all this is coming from. You do have an understanding.
He is one of those griots. He is one of those spiritual storytellers that came from West Africa, brought the Negro spirituals over with them because they wanted to hold on to those Africans wanted to hold on to their culture, my culture, our culture. And the blues is so important because that's where it comes directly from. And that's exactly where jazz comes from, country comes from, rock and roll comes from, the rhythm and the blues, hip hop, you want to name it, it starts with the blues. And just like my guy said, they loved the blues. But those type of people who were racist just didn't like the people who played the blues.
I've
Here's a
never
work.
seen a film discuss music like that in a way, and not in a hit you over the head with it. Just like we're just going to do this. Like that first scene where, and I'm drawing a blank on the name all of a sudden. The cousin that was the blues. I am forgetting his name, and I feel so
Preacher
terrible.
Man, Preacher Boy.
When he starts playing that guitar for, was it Smoke or Stack? I can't remember.
It was Stack.
The Stack.
In the
and
car.
The way he looks at him, like shocked that not only is Preacher Boy this good, but it's like, there's something more to this. That's the moment, looking back, I'm like, that's the moment where he knew this was something special.
He knew the blues.
Later.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
such a good moment. His facial expression, I really, literally would have not been surprised if that was his actual facial expression for the actor. Like, damn, I didn't know you could play that good.
Yeah. And it seems like whoever was portraying Preacher Boy could play and could sing, which is great if that was the case, because it sounded like him, because the way he talked and the way he sang was very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't look into any of the behind the scenes on this. Just one, I ran out of time. Two, I kind of wanted to see if you had anything else to bring, because I didn't want to be the one talking about everything for this. I kind of wanted to get, because I know you've done some research in that, so you can help me understand if I'm seeing things a certain way or if it is,
Well, I'd like to start just with, it's 1932. What was happening in the United States of America? Not America. There's other America's people. The United States of America. In 1932. Well, first of all, it's set in Mississippi, which is known as, from what is on record, quote unquote, what they recorded is the state that has the most lynchings. That year, there would be 8 lynchings. One white person. That will always happen if you decided to get in the way between them and their goal. The Klan had reformed in about 10 years prior. What is mostly a misnomer is the Klan didn't start until slavery ended. That's when the Klan really actually started. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was our president at the time. Unemployment for Black Americans, Asian Americans, Mexican Americans was 3 times higher than it was for a white American. Most Black people at that time, Black men, had to work in agriculture. So guess what that was? The biggest export in the entire country was what? Cotton.
Yeah.
Still 200 years later. And for the women, it was domestic service, or essentially housemaid. Fun fact about Mr. Delano Roosevelt. He actually had 2 bills that he wanted to give, and they were both turned down. There was one that would have provided universal health care for all of America. But there were certain people who thought that certain people who had gotten out of slavery didn't deserve health care, and it would take away from their health care. So that's why we don't have universal health care today. And why you're paying your student loans off is because they did not want Black Americans to have schooling for free and become educated. So that's why you have your student loans.
And sadly, you saying that, it all makes sense, because we've had these discussions with other sickos, and that it all comes back to racism.
It really does with this country. I love when people tell me, you always make it about race. Like, you have the 100% ability to say that. I don't. Why? Because I walk around every day and I was born like this. So it shows complete lack of disrespect.
Yeah.
It kind of hurts. I loved, even the town that they were talking about when Smoke was talking to Preacher Boy and was talking about a town, Mound Bayou. He said, go there. That's a town you want to be at. That's a real town. It was actually founded in 1887 in Mississippi, and it was considered like a land of promise for African Americans. Self-help, race pride, economic opportunity, social justice. It even had a post office, banks, stores, public and private schools. And it did have a noticeable decline during the Great Migration, which is also a part of Sinners, the Great Migration. They talk about it. And it did decline. However, it is a town that is still around today and is 98.6% black.
Love hearing that it's still around and that it's predominantly black, because it's not the norm in the US.
No, I actually unfortunately kind of went when I heard the town. For some reason I missed it on the first and second viewing, and the third time I caught it, I was expecting for it to be burned down to the ground. But that really made me happy. At least one happily ever after. Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear. Not only is it a real place, but that it is still there, because so many of these. So I mean, look at like Rosewood, wiped out, essentially burned down. And I only know that because I watched the movie several times because I really liked the movie, and I actually learned something about how bad it was. And I was like, fuck.
And if you think about it, Mississippi would be less than 30 years later. That's going to be where the Mississippi girls try to go to school to break integration and to break segregation.
So much happened there.
So much. I mean, I could go on and on. So much. Like, even down to the way that they're dressed, from Smoke, who is with the Irish mob, and Stack, who is with the Italian mob and with Al Capone. And you look at the dichotomies of just the two of their attitudes and their personalities kind of reflect the individuals that they were connected with.
And touching on that real quick, can I just say Michael B. Jordan did something that not a lot of actors can do, and portrayed two different characters as completely two. Yes, they are twins. The only thing similar is that they look alike, because they have their own. They may have one mutual goal, but they have their own ways of going about it. They have different manners of speaking, different personalities. They're not remotely the same in a lot of ways. And it's you really separated these two. Yes. And I felt like it was real twins.
So did I. I really felt like I was watching two different actors. They just happen to look alike. Mm-hmm. He was that good.
And like I've seen him in other stuff, and I'm like, he's good. Like Creed, good. Black Panther as Killmonger, who, by the way, he wasn't the villain.
Nope.
He was somebody that was radicalized because of oppression in that. So he's not really a villain.
No.
Because I was like, well, I kind of don't blame him for doing what he's doing.
No, that was the whole point.
Yeah. And other people were like, oh, he's such a good bad guy. I'm like, no, he and T'Challa have the same. They have the same end goal. It's just he's like, I'm going to make sure that it happens, and you're not willing to do what I am to do it.
Exactly. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
And even in the ways that the type of groups, like I really dug into how the mobs worked with black people at that time. Al Capone, he would, and it sort of plays into Stack's character, because Stack's always talking about the money, and that was Al Capone, always about the money. You know, you get busted for tax evasion of all things. And you have the Irish mob, which is more of, quote unquote, an outsider. And so Smoke is more reserved and is more, I think, like almost more professional in a way.
That scene where they're discussing, like, when everyone's at the juke joint, and it's they need to be paying money or we're going to lose. He goes, no. We have to let them feel like this is a place where they're allowed to come in, where they're comfortable. And then it's going to work itself out. And it was that just two different sides trying to figure out. It was going money. There's going, no, we got to build a rapport with people. Get them to trust that this is a place that they can come to safely and have a good time, catch a drink. And these are hardworking people who don't have much. So we have to make sure they're going to want to come back here. And then things will happen. I was like, God, just the two different sides. And they both had the same kind of end goal, but one's like, no, we need the money now. There's like, it'll come. We just have to be patient. Come. These are people of the land. These aren't people that have a lot.
Good things come to those who wait.
And I also like that most of the people in this film, and I should say the portrayal of black people in this film, they are not dumb. They are not stereotypes. They are all very intelligent. They don't...
Exactly. The way that people actually are. Yeah, absolutely. So I appreciated no caricatures. I appreciated no stereotypes. I appreciated looking back behind the veil. Like even probably my favorite line, probably in the whole movie, and excuse me for saying it, but when my guy says, no one's ever safe with crackers at night. And I'm like, and I'm laughing so hard because I hear that about us all the time.
No, I would much rather not be around a bunch of white people late at night, and I'm a white man saying that.
I don't want to go into the forest. I don't want to see any campfires. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Nope. I'm good.
But I enjoyed one of the biggest things that I really enjoyed and I loved about the movie was Preacher Boy's relationship with his father and the church, and how my man Delroy Lindo, rest in power, he told him, how they forced the religion on us. They can't force this on us. And that is exactly what took place. Not many people know, but when Africans were taken from Africa, those individuals were not given either Genesis nor Exodus because they talked about freedom. So they were never given an actual version of what it is that their captives believed or said that they believed in. And I think that's why he pushed so hard against it. I have my faith, but I don't need a house. Even the guy who this book is about, he didn't want to be in a house of God. He said no. So it's kind of a look at Black America's relationship with the church, which was created by the white church because they said, hey, you can't come here. Well, that's not great because that's not what God would do. That's not what any person of faith or deity of faith would act like. And so I saw his father as more of in the middle, in that struggle, because in those texts, what is one of the angels that falls from the earth, which is Satan, right? Satan is the angel of light and music. Even Lord of the Rings, Sauron was that before he fell in the first age. So, yeah, that is why they're so attracted to music, and he's so trying to quell. His father's almost losing who he really was and where he came from. And it was kind of almost like a good connection point towards the end of the film when Merrick is talking to Preacher Boy and he starts giving the verses and he's just he repeats the verses because he knows that his captors, the ones that forced him to believe in this, didn't believe in them to begin with, so they hold no power.
So much. Like I said, I have to watch this again, and I'm actually going to be picking up the Blu-ray soon when I can, because I need to own this, because as soon as it's off HBO Max, I'm not going to be able to see it again. Okay, unless I go through other means to get it, but I don't have a problem putting my money down for this film.
You know, I'd like to go digital, and I try to be in the new age, but there are some movies that I want the Criterion absolute silver, metal, gold, metallic, super dimensional fortress version of it. And it's that movie.
Yeah. I'm looking to buy this initial release, and then I'm hoping that it's going to get what it deserves, which is like a Criterion or one of these other boutique labels picking it up like a Kino Lorber or something and giving it the treatment it deserves with a whole bunch of behind the scenes and historical facts and interpretations of what was going on at that time, and delving more into life in that time in the Mississippi Delta area and everything like that.
This is a movie I think could teach a lot of people about things that those who are allies and those who are stupidly, ignorantly, not willfully. And those people would be the ones who would not be able to deny. Like, I love the little gestures of disrespect. How can you love disrespect? But like when they were trying to buy the land and the farm and the barnyard, and the guy spits on the ground when he asks about what happened here, or when he calls him boy, and they very nicely say, there's no boys here. But it gives Michael B. Jordan a chance to, here's his one character saying, hey, there's no boys here. No boys, we got money. And the other one's here, I got guns.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I love that line where he just goes, if I see you or any of your clansmen step onto my land, I will kill every last one of you. And I'm like, you know what? That's warranted, because that's trespassing. And you know exactly what they're coming to do if they're showing up. So
stand your ground.
Yeah. He gave them fair warning. Like, look, we're buying this land. We're going to do what we want with it. You stay on your side and don't cross onto my property. We're not going to have a problem. The second you show up trying to step wrong, I'm going to handle my business.
Exactly.
Which eventually we get to see what happens. But
if what he was trying to get, what they were trying to get, was simply, as one of the end credit scenes say, it was just nice to have some peace. That's what all that they wanted, was just peace, fun, happiness, and not only that, the generational wealth of the land underneath, because that is how individuals of that sort, of the racist sort, were able to keep the control by keeping the land.
That was just such a good way of establishing. They're like, look, you're not going to pull one over on us. We've got the money to buy this land. So money's a universal language. Black or white, it doesn't matter. We're going to give you this money. We're going to take this. And
I still think that it's ripe for a fun little prequel about how they ended up getting that money.
Yes, because they were told, they're like, you think you can play both sides, the Irish and the Italian, and steal from them, and they're not going to find out? He goes, well, they're not going to find out. I'm like, oh, you
well,
are cocky,
apparently they didn't.
But, yeah. I'm like, you're cocky, but you're smart enough to maybe have figured out how to pin it on somebody else so you could get away.
Mm-hmm. Or I'll take that back. If you're leaving Chicago, yeah, something was up.
Yeah, because that was a place to make sure you had something. And they're going back home. They're like, okay, we need to get away from here because the heat is going to be on us. But if we go back home, we could have a good thing going and be around people we know, kind of make things better for everybody, ourselves included. But it wasn't, I never got the impression that they were doing it just for themselves. Like they were going back home like, we got this money. We could really kind of turn things around and help everybody. Yeah, we can benefit from this. We can make our money, but at the same time, we can boost this community. Maybe we can pull people out of the fields and they're not having to do agriculture anymore. They can come work here. We can give them a job here.
Help each other, like giving that little girl just the what was it? It ended up being a quarter.
That scene said a lot without having to say much. Oh, goodness gracious, you nailed it. What did he do? He taught her. He sat and taught her about, no, you value yourself. You value your wealth. And on a side note, I did look up how much he eventually gave her. And in today's money, it would be over $1,100 an hour. Wow. But that scene, I was really, really happy with that scene because he's like, look, I'll give you what do you say, 10 cents an hour to start, or 10 cents for however many minutes it takes me to do what I got to do. And she's like, okay. And he goes, no, you need to negotiate, value yourself. And then she's like, oh, okay. So he makes an hour. She counters and he counters back. And they're like, okay. And
everybody out there,
proud.
Value yourself.
And he was proud that she took that lesson. I'm like, see, like I said, with so little words spoken, it said so much.
And then he had to go ahead and shoot his friends, which I totally got. You know, you can't be coming around here stealing from me, and then I can't just let you. No, I got at least I gave you a flesh wound.
Look at that, because he was like, I didn't know it was your truck. She's like, I tried to tell them, and they didn't listen to me. They thought I was lying. He was like, but you didn't need to shoot me in the ass. And then he just shoots the other guy like in the kneecap. It's like, it's like, sit on the ground, put pressure on it. You'll be fine. Like,
you'll be fine. But it shows what a great person that he is, that after all of that, he still went into the store and still paid and still went to go get them help.
It was an extreme lesson for them, but it was like, hey, don't rob from your own. Don't, we're all trying to do this together and uplift. Why are you going to come steal from one of your own?
Yeah. Why are you going to come steal from someone struggling just as bad as you are?
Yeah.
We haven't touched on her yet, but oh my goodness, my girl. I can't remember her name right off the top of my head. I do have that same little issue. So sorry, listeners, but my girl trying to be around Stack all the time. That is what it was like. Her doing that would get him killed just about anywhere in the United States of America.
Was it? It's Mary, I think was her name. Was it Mary?
I think so.
I know the actress was Haley Steinfeld, which threw me when I found that out. I'm like, wait a minute, you mean the girl that was in the Hawkeye series and is the voice of Gwen in the Spider-Verse movies? Okay. And
yeah, it kind of threw me
like,
for a loop when I saw her, and then she played that. She was excellent. She was excellent, and I did love my man saying when he said, "Are you sure she's white?"
It is. I looked it up. Her name was Mary. Okay. Yeah, that character was Mary. But her introduction, when she walks up to him, she's like, you think you can just...
Oh, Lord. I had to fan myself.
Like, there was already mention telling Preacher Boy, like, here's what you got to do to make sure that woman is going to be happy.
You see how it connects?
She flips it around and goes, you think you can do that and then just leave? She's like, don't turn me out and then just run away because there's something there. I was like, okay.
Don't be a jerk.
But I also like that we get the story of it wasn't just that. There was a deeper connection because her mom had essentially raised Smoke and Stack.
Yes.
And so there's so much more there. And she's like, and you couldn't even send flowers for her funeral. You couldn't even be bothered to come here. And when they said, no, we sent her flowers while she was alive so she could appreciate them.
I am so glad you brought that up because it shows so much how two different cultures are. You're upset because I'm not mourning enough. I'm not in pain enough. I'm not hurting enough. Going all the way back to Africa, traditions would occur where the individual was celebrated when they passed on because they were going to be with their ancestors. They called those homegoing celebrations, which still happen today. Happened when my people had passed away. We had homegoing celebrations. And isn't that what we all want a little more in life? To be loved and recognized while we're actually living, while you can enjoy it.
That's what we all would want.
Mm-hmm.
So when he said, no, we sent her flowers while she was still alive so she could appreciate and smell them, I was like, that says, again, it's something that says so much about those characters without a whole drawn out monologue about it.
Exactly.
And it, like you said, it's the two different cultures. She's going, why aren't you mourning, sending flowers for the funeral, being there to feel the same pain? And they're like, because we're celebrating the fact that we had all that time with her and we could send her those flowers. So we want to remember those good times that we had and celebrate that life that we knew.
Exactly.
There's so much in this, but it's
and for it to, with all three watchings, I have admitted that it always breaks my heart. I'm always like, they're gonna live. They're both gonna live, and it's like, no, they're not gonna live, right? And I cried when he was sitting there about to almost pass away, and there was his child, and there she was. She's a Nigerian-born actress. I did a little Googling, and she is an amazing woman. I'll look her name up again and try to remember and give you that name. But it was just so touching and so beautiful. That's why not being a vampire would be best for them, because guess what? He gets to go home with maybe not his ancestors, and his child for the rest of eternity.
And that was, again, I teared up at that because I was like, because early on we see him go to where Annie is, and I brought up the actress's name, and I may butcher this pronunciation, but I believe it's Wunmi Mosaku.
Yes.
Close to that. I apologize if I said it incorrectly. I haven't heard it said, and I only knew this actress because she was in Loki and Deadpool and Wolverine.
I will be very honest. No, I have not heard her name actually said out loud either.
And
I think you did a pretty good job.
I think she needs more work because I loved her in Loki. I loved her in Deadpool and Wolverine, and in this, she really got to show off what she could do.
Her spirituality, got to really dig into freaking lore. Really, being from Nigeria, she basically knew exactly what it was that she was going to have to do and have to play. And I loved the fact that they showed carnal black intimacy on screen. No cutaways, no nothing. I know it may seem small to some, but it's not, because if you really think about it, it doesn't happen very often.
No. And I was not prepared for the amount.
I don't think anybody was prepared for it.
The amount of things that were not only said, but for the fact that they were like, we're just going to show it. And I'm like, okay, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not opposed. Like, and there was a reason for it. It wasn't just exploitative, like every 80s movie having a girl running around topless at some point, or some couple getting it on the back of the car before, Jason comes through or whatever. There was a reason behind every bit of it. Preacher Boy was taking what he was told earlier and being like, "Hold on, I'm gonna try this out, and I'm gonna make sure that you're gonna have a good time." And we heard,
and behold,
and then we get Mary and Annie, and it's just.
And for a lot of you individuals out there, you might want to take some of his advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you don't take that advice to heart, then if she up and leaves you, that's your own fault.
You know why?
If you expect that from her, you need to go. You need to learn to do that yourself. So watch the movie, and you'll understand exactly what we're talking about.
Yes.
There's so much, and I want to talk about that music scene, but before we get to that, because that is a huge scene, and it was just so powerful and informative and beautiful. I like the fact that we get that, and then not too much later on, we get the other side of that with the vampires kind of having their own version with them singing and dancing and the Irish, what they call it, river dancing or whatever, the Irish step dancing, whatever it's called. It's like I'm like, okay, I
Come to
see.
find out that the song that they sang and the dance is a real folk dance in Ireland.
Folk dance. That was the word I was trying to think of. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It only makes sense because with everything else and that whole music scene with Preacher Boy starting to play, and then we're seeing the past and the future, and
you're seeing African traditions. You're seeing what looks to be Parliament Funkadelic, Bootsy Collins just jamming away.
Mm-hmm.
You got b-boys breakdancing. You got girls dropping it like it's hot. You've got DJs. You've got dancers. You got rappers. You've got guys that were breakdancing. It showed how no matter what, even today, these individuals, these young black artists, musicians, you're connected to your past and to your history, and you don't even realize it. And that is something that is beautiful and can be built off of.
I just saw that scene as, once we saw that, we already knew for a little bit that that Preacher Boy had something special about it. And we knew when they were saying in the beginning, like, some can play music and it opens like a doorway or whatever. It brings together all these different, and that's what we're seeing. And it's just so, It was so cool for me because I'm like, okay, he's opened whatever it is, and we're seeing all these different generations, the future, the past coming together, and it all comes from the same beginning. And even with the Asian dancers that showed up, it's like, it's not so much different. It's tradition, it's deep rooted, but it was a scene that I want to go back and watch again. I mean, I want to watch the whole movie, of course, several more times. But that alone, and then seeing how the juke joint disappeared, it burned away.
Mm-hmm.
And the vampires are there kind of seeing them, but it's because the music has kind of called them as well. So it's a two-way street. Like, it does this positive thing, but that doorway also can bring that.
Just like anything. With the goods, you have to be aware that there is always something evil that's lurking. I mean, evil, if we ever think about evil is always going to love good because it wants to corrupt whatever it is and use it for its own purpose. And that's what Merrick needed. He needed it badly. He missed his people. He missed having his camaraderie, it seems. One of the things I really loved in the movie, going kind of back to the beginning, or more to the beginning of the movie, was when Merrick first showed up at the house, and he came out the sky. I say he came out the sky.
That's the way I took it, because he just kind of drops in. You're like, what happened?
Yes, and he runs up to the building. And it's very subtle, but he says, I was with some Choctaw and they were trying to kill me. Well, not many people know, but I did some research and looking it up. The Choctaw people and the Irish even have a covenant that goes all the way back hundreds and hundreds of years, that they always will be there and look out for each other and each other's peoples. When the Irish first came to America, they were on the outskirts and were taken in by black people and by the Choctaw Indians. However, as the 20th century kept going, unfortunately, the Irish did trade in for their whiteness and for stature and to get a little bit higher, in class, money, everything. But but you notice how in the beginning he talks about them respectfully and is terrified. So they knew he was a vampire, and then it cuts to the Klan outfit, and then he immediately goes, "All right, and starts using the slurs and everything else because now he knows who he's dealing with. I think that the actor who played Merrick, I can't remember his name offhand, but that guy, he is not only is he excellent. I read a good interview with him, and he didn't even know that the dance that actually was being done was an actual folk dance from Ireland.
Oh,
but
wow.
Like you said, it really showed how different the two dances were. Something about passion and light and love, and it's connecting through the times. And here you've got a dance is happening. They're dancing in place, and there's evil and there's blood all around.
That actor is Jack O'Connell, who, again, somebody I haven't seen in anything. And there's a few actors in this film that I had not seen anywhere. Preacher Boy, Pearline, I don't know them outside of Sinners. And I'm kind of glad because this gives me an idea of just how good they are. Because nobody was.
I'll even admit I did not. I'm not big of a Haley Steinfeld watcher, and I was just blown away. I was blown away.
Yeah, I was surprised because I'd only seen her in the Hawkeye series, and then I knew she voiced Gwen in the Spider-Verse films, and that's pretty much it. I've seen bits of Bumblebee, but I'm like, whatever. Transformers movies don't really
Bumblebee,
hold my
that doesn't
attention,
count.
whatever. So I wasn't expecting this kind of portrayal from her. I was like, okay, all right, I see what you can do. You're holding your own with the rest of this cast that is hitting it out of the park on everything.
And what Coogler did was they cast and portrayed all of the lead women in this film as strong, as independent, as I can stand on my own. I don't need you. I just happen to love you.
Mm-hmm. Like the scene with Annie when he went back and was at the grave of their baby. And he's saying, Papa's here. And then he goes in to talk to her, and she's basically like, look, I love you, but as you can see, I haven't needed you because you just up and left, went to Chicago, and I've been making it on my own. So as much as I love you, I haven't needed you here. I've been doing this. And then, of course, we see there's still that connection between the two of them. They were destined to be together, and we see that throughout this film. There's just so many good, even just the character. Delroy Lindo as Delta Slim. Delroy Lindo will never not be a joy for me to see on screen.
Never.
I loved that character from the second I saw him, and I had forgot he was in this. When he came on screen, I went, oh, it's Delroy. All right. Love that man. He can do no wrong as far as I haven't heard any controversy about him, so as I'm concerned, that man can do no wrong in my eyes.
Character he plays is such a dichotomy of what it was like to be an older black man in the United States, and his motto was essentially, I'm not going to mess up a good thing.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, he's probably 60 something in the movie. So that means he would have been born in 1840.
Right around there.
Mm-hmm. So you can imagine how he would have felt at that time with the Civil War that just ended not too long prior. But I will say, understanding that it's Prohibition time when this is set, there is absolutely no way I'm drinking. What was he drinking? Grain alcohol?
Corn liquor, he called it. Yeah, great. Basically, grain alcohol.
Liquor. Oh
Yeah.
gosh, corn. Oh gosh,
And I feel
my
like
poor
that
stomach
said,
hurts.
yeah, and I feel like that said so much because it wasn't like he's going, yeah, I just enjoy to drink every now and then. I felt it was like I'm drinking because there's so much that I just don't want to, I kind of don't want to deal with. If I'm a little wasted all the time, I don't have to worry about it. I don't want to ruin a good thing. I can go play at this club. They give me the liquor. I'm good. Maybe a few dollars to get me by. Don't want to ruin a good thing. Keep myself in a state of even drunkenness all the time. And I was just like, it was so much deeper than just, oh, he's a drunk.
Yes. And I think you nailed it perfectly.
Well, thank you. I may not be the smartest person at times, but I can pick up on some things. Yeah, and I also love the character of Cornbread, played by Omar Benson Miller, who I always know from 8 Mile.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that back and forth with him and the twin, he's like, "What are you doing here?" And they're like, "It is," and they start giving him shit. Like, well, maybe you can do this. You could afford to get your wife something. It's like, hold on. And he was like, no, it was almost like the Will Smith keep my wife's name out of your mouth, as he was about to quote the asses. And I'm like, he's about as big as both of y'all put together, so he could probably kick both your asses without any hesitation.
And he gave us a chance to show Stax affable, even in the face of danger, even in the face of getting your ass kicked, attitude, and the fact that another strong woman. Hold up, you'll need to speak for me. How much are we talking?
Basically like, you should take that offer. And it also showed, like, even though Cornbread was like insulted, at the same time, these are people who are friends from way back. So while they might fight, they might argue, there's a bond there still.
Yes.
And they were even saying, like, hey, you could do this and get out of having to pick that cotton, which we know you don't like. That was another thing. They didn't portray, like so many movies portray, like, the people going out and picking cotton as like, oh, well, they're just happy to be out there doing it. I'm like, no, they weren't. Nuh-uh. They were forced to do that. That was what they had to do to get by. That is not something they wanted to do. It was not enjoyable.
Yes, that was a had to. Not
they showed them out there barefoot.
People around the United States work jobs that they don't want to. They have to.
And unfortunately, this was a time where it was like, well, you're still seeing, yeah, slavery has ended, but you're still kind of less than everyone else, so you get out there in the field and do the hard work.
The job market was suppressed, so that the only way that most black men in America had to get and make a living was to pick cotton. Again, the biggest export in the United States at the time, by far.
I also appreciated that bit with Preacher Boy in the beginning. They show him out there doing it. He gets done relatively quick. Like, he's like, I want to get this done.
Yeah.
And when he's talking to his dad, he goes, I met my quota for the day, so I'm done. I'm going to go have some free time to myself and do what I want to do. Because that job is done. I'm done. I met my quota. That's all I got to do. I'm out.
Those are the type of jobs that were usually sun up to sun down.
And I think it just speaks to the fact he's like, look, I have to do this. I don't want to do it. But if I get it done, maybe I can have some semblance of a life outside of standing out in this field.
Exactly. Maybe it will lead somewhere. And here is another wonderful fact that many people may not know. But the actual singer at the end of the movie. Give me 1 second.
No, I didn't look this up. I figured he had to be like a real singer or something, but I didn't look into it.
He was. He was. I did have his name at one point. But Buddy Guy, that is the name of he is considered one of the biggest influences of the blues, actually. So the fact that they used it as an opportunity to be able to not only tell the history of the blues and then have one of the biggest contributors to the blues actually in it, that to me is just so cool.
And I've heard that name, Buddy Guy. I have heard that before. I did not realize this was him. So that is really cool to find out that he was actually portraying the older version of Preacher Boy. But he's also this huge influence, one of the biggest influences. And it's, again, something that Coogler did that I don't think a lot of other directors would, especially white directors. And I'm not trying to dump on any white directors, but they wouldn't have sought out something that
extra
real.
Attention to detail as he would have. It is a detraction. It isn't at all. I think it's safe to say that, for instance, I'm pretty sure that they hired or worked with some Irish individuals of direct descent for that dance and that song. You want authenticity.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was direct descendants who knew about it, people who know a lot about Irish history and how that area and all that went together hand in hand. And also got to say, too, the portrayal of the Asians in this film, thank you, because it was not the stereotypical for that time, having a thick accent and, all the bowing and all the stuff that we've come to see from other films in this time. They had a Southern drawl. They were very much talking normal, like you would in that time, because they're whatever generation at this point. They're not having just come there. They've been there for a while. Their parents or their grandparents were the ones that came over.
Yes.
And now they're second, third generation in, so they wouldn't.
And all they're trying to do is meld their culture in with American culture so that their children, they can feel safe and have a piece of this country as well, too.
I was just so glad. And I was reading reviews. Oh, it was Letterboxd when I put in that I had watched the films. I try to do that to track everything. And then, of course, I'm going to review this on there. And I was reading down the list of reviews. And somebody was like, thank you for not portraying the Asians in a stereotypical manner like everyone else would have. Like,
it's the little things that are not little that matter. And yes, there is a connection amongst Black and Asian people that date back that long.
And it was good to see because it showed you that the Asian community and the Black community had so much more in common than they did with the white community, who just that scene on the street, the white people never looked across to the other side. They stayed about their business, whatever, and
you even heard when they were in the store, they were talking, and some lady was talking in the background. I have no problem with the colored, so the greatest word in the world. Remember when they had their own side of the town? They were reminiscing about the good old days. Even then.
Yeah. Goddamn white people, right?
Love you.
I say that as a white person myself. I cannot handle a lot of these white people.
Don't worry. We know the difference. We always do.
I mean, I can't say that at one point I might not. I might have been closer to that, but the difference is I learned, I grew, I matured. But enough about me. This isn't about me. I want to talk real quick about the actual horror aspect of this, because we've done a lot of the deeper stuff. Let's touch on the horror for a little bit. Man, these vampires, they were actually really cool.
They are the type of vampires I prefer.
And what I like too is there was a hive mind mentality about them. It wasn't just turning one and now there. It was, oh, we know what he knows and he knows what we know. So he started learning about everybody that was in that club the more that he turned. And I'm like, oh, it's interesting. Because when he starts throwing out the names, he's like, oh, Preacher Boy. And they're like, oh, what? How did you, when they start saying, oh, he knows what we know and we know what he knows. So you should just let us kill you and join us. It'll be a lot better. I'm like, that doesn't sound like a good deal at all.
Not at all. Not at all. I loved the portrayal of the vampires in this fashion as more brutal, as more, I think he came across as kind of almost genuine in a little bit of a way. Like, I want to make a family in an evil, genuine sort of a way. You only got to see them in the air a couple of times, and it was quick shots. But for some reason, especially when they finally got into the club, when my lady had enough and she decided to go full Terminator on everybody, they go in there and they're more animalistic, almost barbaric in a way.
It reminded me of 30 Days of Night, where they, at a certain point, they get feral. Like the enticement of being able to feed or turn has unlocked that feral side. Because they're just attacking like wild animals at that. Even Mary, when she had, I keep forgetting which one it was it Stack or Smoke? I can't tell them apart.
When Mary, are you talking about when Mary
when they were
Stack?
Yeah, Stack. Thank you. I don't know why I can't remember which is which. I think it's just because I was so ingrained in everything else, I didn't really care to figure out.
Do you know how I remember?
Like, the colors?
Smoke, Stack. Like, if you put their names together, it's a word. Smoke is blue, Stack is red.
Okay. Yeah, see, had I watched this a couple more times, I probably would have done better. But I only got the chance to see it once.
Don't worry.
But
It took me 3 times to watch it to get that part right.
like I knew the colors were obvious, like separating them and Smokestack, but for some reason in my head I had them switched all the time. But even when she had Stack and they're like, Preacher Boy looks in and they're going at it, he's like, oh, nope, not touching that.
Nope, smart man.
Back and Smoke's like, okay, I told you to do it. He goes, yeah, I'm not doing that on my own. And then when you go back and you see she's just taking a bite out of him, it's like, oh.
Literally.
And when she turns, then she's like, oh, wait, it's not what you think. But her stance initially was like an animal backed into a corner. And then she kind of comes up like, oh, okay, okay. It's those little details like that. And it was just
more animalistic in nature.
And I do appreciate the fact there wasn't, when they showed the bites that turn people, it wasn't 2 holes in the neck like we normally see. It was like an animal bite. Like Mary's shoulder had a bite on it.
Yeah.
Cornbread had a bite somewhere that was, it looked like an animal had bit them, which almost leads to like it was like a rabies transmission.
All the way, yeah, she was bitten almost all the way onto her shoulder.
The second she said, I can go out and talk to him because I'm white. No, I'm like, oh, that's not.
Yeah. We all knew she was dead the moment she said that stupid statement.
But then I also appreciate the fact this part of the lore where they have to be invited in.
Oh, that was fun.
And when Cornbread comes back, he goes, so you're going to let me in? They're like, whoa, wait a minute. You've been here the whole time. You've been in and out of this place all night. Why all of a sudden now are you asking permission? The way he's like, look, I'm just trying to respect everybody's thing. I just need to get in there and help out if I can. And they're like, something's not right with that.
Too polite.
And then when he pulls Smoke out, say he goes to hand him the money, he pulls him out, goes to bite him. I'm like, oh, shit. I was like, wait, are both of them going to get? Oh, no. No, it didn't happen, but he shot him.
It did a great job of making you think it would happen.
When it ramped up the horror, that's when it was like, okay, this is where like I'm not saying the whole movie isn't fun, but this is where like the fun, like, okay, this is the more lighthearted part of the movie with the horror and the blood and the gore and all that. You're going to see all this going on, but there's still moments that are deep within. You know what I mean?
interspersed
Yeah.
throughout.
Like when Annie's like, okay, I now know what we're dealing with. This isn't, I believe she said it wasn't haints, they're vampires. She initially thought it was one type, and she's like, nope, these are vampires. And they're like, wait, what? She's like, yeah. I love how she figured it out because she threw a jar of pickled garlic at one of them and it burned.
Of all things in the world that you could possibly have on you or by you or near you, a pickle jar full of garlic.
And the scene after that where they see somebody on the ground and they're like, oh, who bit him? Like, we don't know. They're like, drag him outside. So they drag this other person outside. When they get back in, Annie's like, okay, we're all going to take a piece of garlic and eat it. And the immediate comparison that jumped to my head was the blood test scene from The Thing, where they all had to take the blood sample and Kurt Russell's running the hot needle through. It's that same kind of tension. You're like, okay, they're passing around this jar and everybody's eating it. And one person's like, I don't like garlic. And you're like, oh, okay. But you're like, no, it's too easy that it would be you, the one saying you don't like garlic. Okay. But there's just so much tension because you're like, is somebody here going to be revealed that we didn't catch?
Mm-hmm. And Delroy did such a great job of, do you know what it reminded me of? You had The Thing. I don't know why, I thought of Aliens. Do you remember when the one guy got impregnated and nobody knew, and he starts coughing and everybody points his gun?
Mm-hmm. I could see that, yeah, because it definitely, yeah, I didn't even think about that, and it makes so much sense. But the second he took that and then just started, and they're like, whoa, what's, he's like, sorry, I just drank too much. Like,
you're acting too funny.
And they were all just like, are we going to have to kill Slim? We don't want to have to kill him, but what do we do? There was that realization, like, we don't want to, no, we really don't. But even the Asian woman it wasn't the Asian, it was Pearline, was like, I don't want to eat garlic. I don't like it. They're like, you're just going to have to do it. I do like the touch of like, you don't even have any more of the pickled garlic? Like, no, this is what we got. So I love that Annie was no nonsense. She's
nasty, disgusting, a full clove. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine?
Those were big cloves. Those were big cloves of garlic.
They weren't small.
Mm-mm. No, and I like garlic, but I don't know if I'm going to eat a raw clove.
Oh, no.
I mean, if it comes down to them, possibly killing me, then I probably would do it. But just for somebody to go, hey, eat this clove of garlic. Nah, I'm good.
That's my one exception to the rule.
That whole horror scene that happens, everything that plays out. I was watching it, and as someone who I'm sure you also watch a lot of horror, you said you do. And I watch everything from the early 40s, if I can, 30s, all the way up to modern stuff. And there's a specific era in the 70s and into the early 80s where the blood flowed a certain way that looked kind of realistic, but the color was off. And somehow they hit that. It looked realistic, but it flowed. The color was right, and the flow seemed right for when they were doing these things. Like, it was a little extreme, but I'm like, that's probably how this would look if that happened. I was like, okay.
Yes.
It had like that 70s, like a lot of exploitation films had that, and a lot of horror films at that time had that kind of blood that would happen. Mm-hmm. Even look at Dawn of the Dead. That bright, like, kind of gross,
very bright
Italian horror at the time, giallo films, same thing. And this kind of nailed that same, like, it runs like water, which quite possibly would at that point, with the way things were hitting, but it just looked really good. Like, all the effects in this looked really good.
The special effects were excellent. Probably the moment that makes me think most of what you're referring to is when Delroy takes the beer bottle and he cracks it. And then he cuts his hand, and then it just starts spurting everywhere. And I'm like, damn, it looks great. It's gory, but it's subtle gory. Like, is that a thing?
Yeah. Less is more. And they didn't go over the top with the amount of gore in this, and they could have. For it being a vampire film, I think they hit the perfect level. It didn't have to be so over the top, but they didn't want to go Texas Chainsaw, where they don't show anything. They showed enough to keep you going, okay, this is visceral. And that Delroy moment, that Delta Sled cutting his arm, that was subtle gore. But I also like the fact it spoke to his character where he's like, look, I'm older. You guys got a lot more to live for. So you get your asses upstairs. And I'm going to make sure that you guys get through this. Because he goes, probably thinking, I don't have much time left anyway. So if I can help y'all survive this, I'm going to do it. And he went out with kind of like a badass. Because he just cuts himself and he's bleeding. He's like, come on, you want this?
He did kind of go out like a badass. Like, did he not?
It's like, all right, Slim, you... Okay.
He did. You know what? He did go out like a badass. If you're going to go out that way.
Like, he could have done anything to try and avert them and try to get up there. And he was like, nope. If I have to sacrifice myself so those younger ones can live their lives and get out of this potentially. I was like, it's a selfless act.
There was a lot of that throughout this movie.
I will say the one, like when the brothers are fighting after we know that Stack has turned. And later on through all this, Smoke and Stack are fighting. That moment, I was like, man, but you two, I'm like, this seems like it was leading to that anyway. Like they might have had a fight anyway, but now it's another type of fight with them.
Mm-hmm.
But the moment that really kind of was an emotional gut punch was Annie. So it was like the one person that I thought was going to make it through this. She had the knowledge. Did. And it was just so sudden and unexpected. I was like,
I really thought she might make it through. That really did break my heart.
But you can see why it had to happen by the end. But it was still just like, that's one thing about this film I really appreciate is there was time to get to know these characters and really become emotionally invested in each of them. So when the time came for these main players to have to do this fight and things happened, you were really invested. You didn't want to see it. You didn't want to see Stack turn. You didn't want to see Mary. You didn't want to see anything bad happen to these people.
No.
And then when it happened, you're like, oh, what's going to happen next? I can't. Oh.
And then you get so, like, on top of that, you get so caught up in what Merrick is about and the Irish side of things and the words that he says. And they came and tried to take it. When they took my father's land, they said those same words. It kind of makes you want to know so much more about his backstory. That is next to the music. That might be the greatest strength is the fact that they wrote the characters so well, even the small ones. You care about everybody, even Cornbread.
Even when Proline got it, I was like, oh, not Preacher Boys. I mean, yeah, she was married to somebody else, but I mean, come on, we all knew that was gonna possibly go somewhere. Oh man.
You know, I never have rooted for adultery before.
It's the only time where I was like, well, maybe he's not so great because he's not there letting his wife just run around doing whatever.
He's not there. He's not protecting his wife. He's an asshole anyway.
That's not me saying that a man should control what his wife does. All I'm saying is if he doesn't know what she's doing, who knows what he's off doing at the same time. But I'm not.
Means you're not that important.
Didn't seem like she cared too much. She was just like, oh, I'm married. And he's like, is he here? She's like, no. He's like, what does that tell you? He's like, Preacher Boy's here.
No, my favorite. I just love the way he said it. Are you married? I'm married. Happily.
And you can tell in that moment, like I said, I have to watch this movie again because
you have to watch this movie again.
It reminds me of
you will be tied up this weekend.
Oh yeah, I am going to end up watching it multiple times. I'm going to own the Blu-ray. I'm going to hope that somebody gets this to do an even better, bigger release. I shouldn't say better, but I should say a more feature-packed release down the road. So I'll buy that too. I mean, I've got really special editions of like the Friday the 13th movies behind me that Scream Factory did, so I'm not above.
No, I want an entire behind the scenes on just the music shot. I want an entire behind the scenes on cinematography, then the art design and the wardrobe, and then on the doggone history. I mean, I could end up watching, if they were to pack that DVD with everything like that, I could end up spending a day watching one movie.
Yeah. I would be so for that. Because I did not watch a trailer before seeing this. The only thing I knew about was how they pulled off Michael B. Jordan portraying twins. And it was a really, crazy setup they had with multiple cameras as he's portraying one of the twins and then doing it for the other so they could do head replacements on other actors. So when they'd be interacting, both in the same scene having to touch, it would be a different actor, but they do a head replace. Very intricate stuff, and you could not tell. Them being side by side in a scene didn't look weird. Everything worked. And I'm going to say this is what you get when you allow effects artists the time to really show what they can do. Because Hollywood has been too much about rushing out product.
And
look at the Flash
that
movie.
Comes bad CGI.
And everyone's like, why were effects so much better years ago? I'm like, because they were given time. And now it's about, here's when the movie's coming out. We need you to get these effects done because we already have a date. We're not going to give you any more time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, practical effects artists,
as they say, they put the cart before the horse.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm a huge practical effects guy, and they used to get the time in the 70s and 80s to really get done what they needed to do. Even if there was a time crunch, they'd get the people in there and get what they could and get that stuff done. Digital effects artists are very similar, that they need time to be able to make something come off believable. Look at Jurassic Park. Those effects still hold up today. Why? Because they were given the time to really nail that down.
And they still do. The original.
And that's 94. We're in 2026. Go put that on right now and you'll see just how well they hold up. And yes, there was a mix of practical and digital, but it's really seamless. And this movie is one of the most recent examples of a modern film where they gave those artists time to dial in everything.
Everything.
And
from the horses to the carriages to the design of the cars to just every little bit of it. And that is something that is an epidemic, is that these special effects artists, let me say the word again, artists, are not given enough time to actually practice their actual art and make a quality product. Here they did, and here is something they can be proud of.
Yeah, and it's not to get off on too much of a tangent, but I watch a certain YouTube channel that is run by a digital effects house, and they'll do reviews of effects in movies, and that's how I found out how Sinners did the Smokestack Twins. And even they were like, I would have never thought to do this. This is what you get when you allow technology to assist you. You give people the time they need to really make things look believable.
And not just rely on it to do everything for you.
Yeah. I was just like, yeah. And when I saw that, I was like, that's really impressive. And it really looks good. You cannot tell. And the scene I keep coming back to is when, towards the beginning of the film, the twins are up against the car smoking a cigarette. And I believe it's Smoke hands the cigarette over to Stack. And it's seamless. It's
seamless as they turn the camera slowly to reveal that there are actual two of them.
I don't know if Coogler kind of put his foot down for that. I'm not sure, but whoever decided to give them time made the right call. It shows in the final product.
Right call. It absolutely shows. This is what we hope that they always make movies for. This is the reason.
Mm-hmm.
For art.
Yeah, it's art. I know some people don't care for digital effects or CGI, but when it's done well and you give these guys time to cook, essentially, let's put it in terms people are going to know, you get something good. And when you rush them, just like if you ask somebody to paint your house and they're like, okay, it's going to take, to do a good job, we're going to need several days. If you go, no, I need it done in 2 hours because I'm having a party tonight, they're not going to do a good job.
No, you've rushed them.
Yeah, it's one of the things that frustrates me about effects artists getting the short end of the stick. Like, they're just as important as everyone else on the film.
Exactly. Yes, they are. It doesn't run right without them.
Not at all. I do think we should probably talk some about the ending here, or maybe not the exact ending, but maybe the climax with Preacher Boy and Merrick in the, was it a river, pond, lake?
Mm-hmm.
That, where he was trying to get away, and Smoke and Stack are having their altercation inside. Annie's been having to be dispatched before she turns. He's trying to make his way out. He's got his guitar. And this is what you've referenced when Merrick is being, Preacher Boy saying those lines to him from the Bible. He's like, yeah, I heard that. That whole thing where he's just, Merrick is, he's not quick to try and turn Preacher Boy. He's trying to make his case to him in a way. Like, look,
you notice that
I don't have anything, but I'm making my family again because I've lost everything. Wouldn't you want to be a part of something where you can not worry about dying eventually? Everyone you love is going to be around you forever. I mean, he's not saying those words, but it's that implication.
He portrayed him as almost someone who, before they turned them, wanted them to be willing participants in the act.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of practical effects, it's very subtle, but how the sun rises over them as they're fighting. It still boggles my mind how in the world they did not have a body clock to know that the sun was about to come up, but I will let that slide. But between that and him taking a chunk out of his head with the guitar was just phenomenal.
That was, I did not expect it until they cut to the guitar, and I'm like, this is what we see in the beginning where he's just walking with the neck. And then to see that, where that silver plate or whatever just gets lodged in Merrick's head, I was like, ow, that's, okay, damn. I was not expecting that. It was, and I'm, like you said, they didn't have some kind of internal clock to tell them when the sun was rising, which they can forgive. I wonder if it was because of that hive mind mentality. Because when Merrick was when he was trying to convince Preacher Boy and going back and forth and telling him sort of his story in this, all the other vampires were just standing around not doing anything. And it wasn't like they couldn't, because they could have tried to go back in and find Smoke or anyone else that might have still been alive and take them out and have them become a part of the bigger clan. But I'm wondering if he had so much control that he was able to kind of put them in a state where just stay there while I take care of this. Because even when he would start singing, they would start chiming in slowly, like he was like drawing them in. It was just a very different portrayal. So I'm wondering if he was so obsessed that it kind of overtook his need to get out of the sunlight, because he really just, his focus was so drawn to getting Preacher over to his side, like the obsession. I don't know if that's it. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, or that's just my interpretation. But
no, I don't think you're reading too much into it, because if you really think about it, yes, he was so obsessed with Preacher Boy that he had to have him no matter what, which caused him to lose track. And he must have some type of control, because just like you said, like even earlier when he was talking to Mary, and it was the other little vampire that was with him that would pipe up just a little bit after he said what he had to say. She would repeat it just a little bit after. And I kind of think, I wonder if it was the same type of situation here.
And the only reason I think that is there was a line that was said, and it's very quick. If you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. And it might have been Annie who said it. She goes, they feel his pain.
Yes.
When Merrick was getting shot or hit, every one of them was reacting and like feeling it.
Yes.
So there's such a connection as he's turning these people to his vampiric side.
So if it's reasonable to say if you could feel his pain, then you would feel his joy, then you would feel his anger and his obsession.
I think that shows a little bit at the beginning when those three first show up, and he's trying to sweet talk him into letting him in. He's like, "We just want to have a good time. We want to play music."
He was doing such a good job too.
And the other two just look so, like, the guy especially looks really sinister. The way he's just kind of like, his eyes were really kind of beady. The way he was looking, I'm like, oh, there's something off about you. I mean, I know you're
beady is a good word,
point, but Merrick didn't come off as sinister. He came off as kind of charismatic and charming in a way.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
That guy that he turned looked sinister, and we all know he was a Klansman anyway, so it seemed like he was like, oh, now I got something extra.
Yeah, so you could tell that they at least kept a little bit of whoever it was that they really actually were, which we find out is proved later on in one of the end credit scenes.
So we know Preacher Boy gets away because Smoke, after seemingly taking care of Stack, we don't know because they cut away. So we're presuming, okay, maybe he had to do what he never wanted to do. Yeah. Because there's that whole scene between them where he's like, they just wanted to protect each other. So no matter how hard they fought or argued, they were their brother's keeper for each other, really.
Boom.
And just dial back a little bit. I do like the line where somebody looks at Smoke and goes, "You were a soldier, right?" Because earlier he had told Preacher Boy, because he goes, "If I can't do that, you're just gonna have to shoot me." And he pulled his gun and he goes, "I'm a soldier. You gave me an order. I'm gonna do it."
You gave me an order. Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Oh," I was like, "This is interesting." And then that comes back again. They're like, "So you said you're a soldier, right?" It's like, "Oh, all right. You're gonna use my own words against me, okay?" But it makes sense. But that scene between Smoke and Stack when they're fighting, when Stack is turned and Smoke's, neither one of them have the upper hand. It's equal. Despite the fact one's a vampire, they're not getting the best of each other. They know how each other works. But ultimately, when we see Smoke show up, and we don't see it initially, we just see a stake getting run through the back of Merrick. And I'm like, huh? What? And then it just kind of goes around. You're like, okay, yep. He made it out. Okay.
I'm so mad at myself because, goodness gracious, I watched the movie twice and didn't realize.
I was surprised because I thought maybe it was one of the other vampires. Maybe like Caroline or somebody had like a moment of like, even though you're kind of controlling me, I can't let this happen. And then it comes to him. I'm like, of course it would be Smoke. He's our hero in a way.
He's still our hero. Yes, he is. Mm-hmm.
But I love that ending because he does it, and they stand there together watching the vampires burn as the sun rises. And none of them are trying to run away or take cover. They're just standing there and burning and screaming. And it's like, oh, even
you felt bad.
Yeah. And I felt bad for the Asian couple because she went to go take out her husband and they caught on fire and she's screaming but holding him down, and you see them burning together. I'm just like, oh.
That was a little bit rough. It was such a great visual, though.
When they go back and the two of them are just there and you're just seeing these burned, charred corpses, you're just like, oh. And a part of me was like, at least they died together? I was like, this is still kind of messed up because... Oh, it's like you don't want to see these two die. You didn't want to see him become a vampire, and then when he's like, just come to the car, and you're like, oh, no. And I appreciate the fact that we don't see any of the bites or any indication that they've turned until you get a subtle look when they turn a certain way. It's like when Bo came back and was like, come on, we just need to go to the car and we'll go home. It'll be okay. He turns a certain way, and you can see like on his side, there's like some blood, like they bit him on the side. I'm like, oh, It was like with Cornbread. He had to turn a certain way and then you saw it. Mary, you didn't notice until you saw her shoulder.
It's almost like they did it on purpose so that you can't see that there's something wrong.
And I like the look in their eyes too. The way their eyes kind of go like silver, but Merrick's go red.
Red.
It really lets you know he's the leader of this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, part of me also, and I don't know if this is me reading too much into something. We know there was something between the black and the Irish there with what was happening, the two sides. But it also almost seems like when the vampires were coming in, like it was almost an allegory for like gentrification. And then like, well, if you just be a part of what we got, you don't have to worry. It'll be better for you in the end. And I'm like, and I don't know if that's just me seeing something that's not there, but it really felt like there was a little bit of that, the gentrification thing, which kind of harkens back to Candyman a little bit, I think, but I could be totally incorrect here.
This is the type of movie, I think, that what you gather from it in a positive manner is what was intended. And what you just described is exactly what he intended, which it is an allegory for gentrification. Because over here is a bunch of black people having a good, great time. They've brought their friend over there with them who's white. Their Asian friends. Everybody's having a marvelous time. And what it all is based on is you heard that music and wanted it so bad for yourself you were willing to murder for it. If that's not the definition of what gentrification is, I don't know what it is then. This absolutely was gentrification.
See, I picked up on it and I was like, maybe I thought maybe I could be reading into something that's not there, but it just seemed, and it wasn't heavy-handed either, but it just spoke to me of, well, they have something and we want that. So why don't we just go in and try and take it? But try and convince them that it'll be for the better when really we're just going to kind of force them out or put them in a certain area.
Hence, like Delroy said earlier in the movie, just like he said, they love the blues, they just don't like the people who play it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm glad that I picked up on that, and it is exactly what was intended, because I think it could go over a lot of people's heads. And I think it also stems from the fact that I've seen the Nia DaCosta Candyman like a few times now, and that's very much a theme in that film. And if you don't get it, I don't understand how you don't get it. They blatantly talk about it.
That's the entire purpose.
I think that has kind of helped open my eyes to when things like this are shown in other films now.
It makes it easier to spot.
Yeah.
Because that was a running theme throughout the entire movie. Gentrification, ownership. I mean, what did they want? At the very beginning, they wanted just their own land and they wanted that building. They couldn't even have that. They always planned to go ahead and murder them and take it back anyway.
Yeah.
And keep the money.
And we see that because after Smoke and Preacher Boy watch everybody else burn up, that's what Smoke's telling them, like, go off to, was it Mound? You said it and I just drew a blank. Go off to another city. Like, go there. It's going to be better for you. You need to go. I got something to handle here. Go off there. Make a life for yourself. You don't need to be around this anymore. I need to finish what's going on here. You're young enough. You need to go make your life there. It'll be better for you. Do that. And then Smoke makes good on his promise of, if you come on my land, I will murder everyone. Because those Klansmen show up with every intent of just taking back whatever they sold the brothers the day before. It's like,
he went full military, Rambo, whatever you want to call it.
And I love, because when he and Preacher Boy were pulling that trunk out of the truck, I went, oh, that's the trunk that was talked about earlier. Because he said, we need the trunk. Someone goes, no, you don't need the trunk. It's like, he was kind of like, shh, okay, fine. And then you see it, and then when he opens it, you're like, oh, he's not playing.
That's why you didn't need the trunk right then.
I love that you see both brothers' helmets from their time in there and all these weapons they've had. I'm like, oh, okay, he's gonna make good on that promise, isn't he? And sure enough, the guy that sold them the barn and all his buddies show up. They're like, we're just gonna kill him and take everything back. A bunch of redneck idiots. And they don't get the time because they think they're gonna go in and they just start getting picked off. And I love that because he's set up in the woods behind them, just picking them off. And
The
they're
whole
like, wait,
time.
where's And I love that we don't even know he can do that until he opens the trunk. You're like, oh, okay, he's got some training. That's why he wanted the trunk earlier. He's like, I can handle this all right now.
It was a disease of the time, which was they would underestimate and assume. And they assumed very poorly here.
Yeah. They thought, oh, it's just two black folk that we could just take care of. Or however many might still be there. We'll just shoot them and be done and take our land back. Nope, not this time.
No.
And I love that he just went in there and was like, okay, shoot them from here, take a few out, and then just walk up to them like, there's nothing else for me, but I'm going to make sure I take you out. If I'm going down, y'all are definitely coming with me.
Exactly.
And it was so good because I think at that point he had already known his fate was sealed. Like he was probably going to go down, but he's like, not until I take every one of these crackers with me.
If you really think about it, he had no choice because the building is still standing somewhat. So it can be just rebuilt.
Although I had a thought he was going to make it until you see him take that shot to the body. And I was like, oh, yeah. Okay.
That broke my heart.
But then at the same time that there's this emotional punch of like, okay, he's not going to make it. When you see him see Annie and their baby, it is heartbreaking, but at the same time, it's so beautiful because you're like, he's getting what he wanted ultimately. He's going to get to hold his child. He's going to get to be with the woman he loves. Yeah, they all had to die in order for that to happen, but at the same time, he didn't lose his soul or his humanity to the plague that was overtaking the night before. So he got to have that reward in the end. And I do like the touch of her going, you need to put up that cigarette if you want to hold your baby. I don't want none of that smoke.
Still telling his ass what to do. You better do right.
And it was such a vision because she's holding the baby and breastfeeding, and they're in white, and there's this glow about them. And it's just such a beautiful and emotional and heart-wrenching scene. But at the same time, there's a bit of joy you can take from that, even though
absolutely
they're all dead at this point.
There's joy in the fact that you can take, in the fact that yes, they did have to wait until they had passed from this plane, but they're happy, and that happiness is going to be eternal for them.
Yeah. Whereas on the other side, which I think this leads to the first of the two sort of mid-credit, post-credit scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Which that first one, I was not expecting, because they didn't show you right away. They just cut to somebody, they show Preacher Boy and they show what happens. They just go to the future, 1992, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
And you're seeing this like blues club and this gentleman playing the blues. And it wasn't until they get a close-up of the face that you see the scars from the slash to the face Preacher Boy took all those years ago from Merrick that you're like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, he did get to grow up and play his music. And then you see that the club is called Pearl Lines because he named it after...
Oh, that was such a touching little...
I got the chills saying it again because when I saw it, I had the same reaction. I'm like, oh, man. He never forgot her.
Never.
He was captivated by her. They had one night where they experienced something together, and he never forgot her.
That is what it's called as souls entwined.
Mm-hmm.
They were meant.
It was just so cool to see him name the club after her, him playing his music, and he's been doing it for a long time. And it was just like, okay. And I thought this is where they're ending it. And that's not where
so did I.
I did not expect this next scene. And you see Preacher Boy sitting at the bar. They're like, hey, there's a couple here that wants to see you. And he's like, what? And it's like, yeah, I told them they could come back and see you. And when they walked in, I was not expecting
I was not. I still can't believe it took me 3 times to see this.
It blew my mind because it's Stack and Mary, and I thought they had either burned up or that smoke had taken them both out.
I was for sure they had burned up, and in perfect '90s attire, may I might add.
So perfect. He had the fade going, and
it was the most perfect high top fade ever.
And just that whole thing where he's like, "Look, yeah, we gotta wait. Smoke promised me not to come after you. Told me to promise to leave you alone." And it was just now he was just showing up like to see like how has your life been? Because I initially thought I was like, oh, are they gonna do something to him? And they offer it like, hey, you can keep playing.
They did offer. Forever. I was also concerned they were going to kill him.
I really thought, and they just offered. He goes, you know what? I think I'm all right. I was like, and they had an understanding. It was really such a different. It came back to Merrick and Preacher Boy all those years before, but it was more like, hey, you're my cousin. I can let you keep playing your music forever. You don't have to, because he sniffs and he goes, you don't have much time left, do you?
Mm-hmm.
And Preacher Boy's like, no, but I think I'm all right. Like he's been able to live out what he wanted, playing his music, reaching people.
Lived his full life.
And I like that Stack was like, all right, understood where Preacher Boy was coming from. Didn't try to force it on him. Was like, hey, if you want it, I can give it to you.
Many come here.
Again, another beautiful ending in this movie.
More beautiful than the original ending. It's just, I admit, I cried very deeply when he just asked them, just said, but until that night, that was the best night I ever had, or the best time I ever had in my life. And how was that for you? And he just says, yeah, it was. And that just, for some reason, that just touched my heart so much because it turns it back to the freedom that they felt so strongly that day.
And I love that they showed those flashbacks of them laughing, having a good time. Preacher Boy playing the guitar with Stack in the car, just looking at him like, oh, okay, you can play that way. And just those good moments that they had that day leading up to what ultimately went down.
It's still amazing that all this happened in one day.
In one day. Because when they said, oh, the previous day, I'm like, okay, so this is where it starts. Then it's going to be over the course of however long. No, it's over the course of one day.
It's the longest day of my life.
Ooh. But the entire film is just so well done. There's not any moment where you're like, okay, let me pick up my phone and see what's going on. No.
Mm-mm. And if you do that, shame on you.
You're going to miss something. Even the most small detail in this film is something you need to pay attention to. And it really speaks to how they laid this out from beginning to end. It's like just the line of, I'm a soldier. You told me to do something. I'm going to do it. And then them calling that back. And then him at the end going, well, I am a soldier. And I told somebody I was going to do something and I better stick to the word.
Mm-hmm. There was a lot of full circle narratives that took place in this movie that Ryan and company, they just made sure to close all the way, come full circle.
Yeah. I honestly would not be surprised if Coogler and Jordan worked together again on other projects. They just seem to understand how each other works. I mean, I don't know how.
I mean, you're not going to get a no out of me with that good night. To me, that's the greatest combination at this time.
And we've seen it with other.
Nina DaCosta.
Mm-hmm. And we've seen directors in the past, like Carpenter worked with, Kurt Russell several times over the years, and they just understood how to do it. So if this is like a modern version of that, I'm all for it. And especially with it being a black actor, a black director, because we don't get them in the forefront too often. And It's about damn time we do. And the fact that this movie is nominated, finally, for an all-black movie, that doesn't happen nearly as often as it should.
No.
I'll be honest, I don't really care about the Academy Awards. I feel like it's one big circle jerk for everybody in the industry.
I agree.
This means something.
It still means something.
Just like when horror finally got some recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's about time.
With Silence of the Lambs.
Mm-hmm. And there's been more of that coming, and now we're finally getting this. It's like, yeah, they should have had a seat at the table from the beginning.
This is so powerful. You can't sit back and ignore it. You can't sit back and ignore its momentum, its power, its strength, or its message. You had to recognize this movie. You had to.
And I don't remember, was Candyman ever nominated for anything, the Nia DaCosta version? I don't remember.
No, the remake was not. I do not believe. It might have been for maybe something like one of the technical awards, art direction or something.
Okay.
I would take that, but I don't think it was.
And it should have, because that film, like this, had a lot to say, and it said it, and it just happened to be a horror film at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And not to get off, because this is a Sinners episode, this isn't Candyman, and we've already talked about that, but I love that touched on not only the gentrification, such just like Sinners did, but in Candyman you also had the fact that the cops just would blame any black guy who happened to fit a description just because it was easier. Like, wrongfully accused, and they're like, but it doesn't matter. He looks enough like whoever they said.
Yes.
I'm just like, that is... And it harkens back to that original Candyman with them just taking Grobitaille and doing all that. It's...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so... I really think that Candyman film should have been up for awards and won something, whether it be director, movie, whatever. It deserves the recognition that I don't think it gets.
It was so criminally passed over.
And I mean, even at the end, when we get the little Tony Todd reappearance, I'm like, hello, that alone. Sorry, I just really love Tony Todd, and the fact that he's no longer with us.
Who in their right mind does not? And you do not have to be sorry for that. I am sorry that you're sorry. You should not have to be sorry. Right. Tony Todd is an absolute legend. Rest in power.
Yeah, and going back to where we were talking at the beginning about Night of the Living Dead, did a hell of a job in the remake, which I believe he got that job because he talked to Dwayne Jones, who was like, you should take the role. I believe that's how it went down. Is Tony Todd was like, I don't know if I can do it justice because Dwayne Jones in that role did so well. And he talked to him, and Dwayne Jones basically gave him the blessing to go portray this new version of Ben. It was still good. I still love that remake of Night of the Living Dead. It's just below the original, but it's a conversation for a different time.
That's a conversation for a different day. But that makes me actually want to watch the remake again.
There's so many things they did in that I appreciate, like giving Barbara more, giving Ben more, and not just having him be shot at the end because, these rednecks just assumed, and it's a black guy anyway, so who cares? There was more to it at the end. Like, Barbara didn't want to have to do that, but like I said, maybe we do a compare and contrast on those two. We get back together and do that. It's been too long for me to have seen the original that I need to go back and watch it again anyway.
It has been too long for me. It's been a couple of years.
But the only reason that is because I'm a twisted individual, and Day of the Dead is my favorite of that original trilogy. And that's not to
really
or night. It is, and I can explain why.
Now we got another conversation for another day, because I maintain it's the least of the three.
I can understand that. It comes to me, the reason it's my favorite is it's the first one I saw, and I was up way too late as a kid and caught it unedited at like 2 a.m. And I saw from the point where the zombies get into the facility underground and they take out Captain Rhodes. And it was not censored. You saw the whole thing.
Okay.
And that line of him going choke on him just was burned into my brain.
Choke on him.
And I saw it through to the end. Saw that whole ending sequence there. And then later on, I finally got to see the whole thing. And I'm like, yeah. It's nihilistic. It's not a happy ending. It's a dark movie. It's not one that a lot of people really care for, but for some reason it sticks with me. I think it's nostalgia. I think it's the fact that
I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I still think it does the series justice.
Mhm.
Just maybe not the best, but
Yeah.
it doesn't deserve the hate it does get.
Yeah, that's the way I feel. And people are shocked. A lot of people are shocked when I tell them it's my favorite. They're like, "Really, that one?" I'm like, "Let me explain why." Like, it holds a certain place for nostalgia, and the fact that I saw this and was like too terrified to go to sleep after seeing this guy get torn in half. But then it was something that I sought out later too. So I'm like, I have to see this entire film. So it was watch night, then watch dawn, and then I finally saw day all the way through. And unfortunately,
Why do we do that to ourselves? Why do we do that to ourselves?
I tortured myself as a kid watching Nightmare on Elm Street movies, watching Freddy's Nightmares way too late at night, watching all the Friday the 13th films on the weekends, and then having nightmares. And I kept...
I forgot about that show. Oh my gosh. Freddy's Nightmares. Yes. The Outer Limits. All of that stuff.
Freddy's Nightmares gave me... I couldn't even watch the full episodes. I would watch the beginning intro with him and then turn it off and then have nightmares of Freddy chasing me through video games and whatever. So
I don't mean to laugh.
No, you can laugh. But I kept chasing that adrenaline rush, that rush from the fear. And now, of course, you become a seasoned horror watcher that nothing really has that effect on you anymore. And it kind of sucks in a way.
It does have that effect on you. I'm sorry. It's the adrenaline rush that horror gives.
Yeah, and when I
need it.
When I find something that does it, I hold on to it. And I try not to watch it too much. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen The Taking of Deborah Logan. If you haven't...
Sounds familiar.
It's found footage. A woman has this crew there to document her mother's, like, I don't know if it's necessarily dementia, but there's some weird things going on. So they're documenting it, and it ends up going places I didn't expect. And there are scenes where I'm like, oh, no. It's unsettling, and it gave me those feelings again. I'm like, okay, I can't watch this too often, but I need to keep it on the back burner for me to put on every once in a while when I want to feel that jolt again.
If I haven't seen it, I'm putting it on my list.
I would put it. And it may not be for you, and that's fine, because not all horror is for everyone.
Mm-mm.
But I do like the fact that the majority of horror, and yet there are films that are just out there for shock value. They don't really have a message other than, hey, can you handle seeing this level of gore and violence? Like the Terrifier films. But the majority of horror has
Human Centipede. Hostel.
But there are so many horror films that have a message, whether it be about society or it's political or whatever. There's a message there. And if you don't see that, I don't understand how you can watch horror and not pick up on those. Especially when you see something like Sinners.
It's happening more and more. Jordan Peele, of course, with every single movie that he puts out. Another great example of this is Castlevania Nocturne on Netflix, which talks about the American colonialism and having vampires who want to rule the new land over the people who want to rule the new land. I just watched just a few days ago a movie that came out this year with Shia LaBeouf. That is a movie based in LA, Crooked Cops, but it's a horror movie. Okay. More and more of these types of movies are starting to pop up, and I think that we are going to start seeing more of a golden age of horror because movies are always going to write about their times. And this is a time of terror and terribleness. So I expect more movies like this to be made over the next few years. Or at least I hope.
Oh, it's been shown that during times of economic distress, societal tensions, anything like that, that there's a greater release of horror movies in those times. And a lot of them do whether directly or indirectly, speak to what's happening during those times.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's, the extreme or the campy, but they both are saying something about what's happening.
Exactly.
And I'm with you. I think this period in time right now is going to give us quite a bit of horror. And it's going to be stuff that if you're not at a level where you can comprehend what's happening, I don't know what to tell you. Because a lot of comprehension seems to have gone out the window with a lot of things lately.
Yeah. Comprehension and common sense has definitely, it's not in high supply right now.
No. And I think anyone who watches something like Sinners and takes away from it like, oh, it was just a vampire movie set in the 30s with black people. That is such a simple take. You missed everything.
You missed the point.
The point is way more, and it just happens to be a horror movie, which I think was a smart move, because who doesn't like a good horror movie? But then you get your message in there. It's like, twofold. You gave somebody a fun horror movie
All you got to do is give us what we want, the blood and the guts.
And honestly, I would have watched this movie even if it wasn't a vampire film. If you remove that aspect and it's just a drama about these brothers coming back home and events play out similarly, but you remove the vampire aspect and have it just be maybe the clan or whatever, which, yes, we've seen stuff like that before, but I think in the hands of Coogler, it could have been still as compelling.
It would have hit different. It would have resonated different.
Mm-hmm.
It would have meant more. Yes.
But I think this opens the door for people that want to actually delve deeper than the surface, because it's all right there. It's not too deep. You don't have to go digging very deep to find out what the message is. It's right there. It's not hit you over the head, but it's like, hey, it's laid out in front of you. Just watch the movie instead of just seeing the movie.
Exactly. Full circle.
Yeah. This has been a lot of fun. I have learned so much, and I think that's all I could ever ask for in this conversation, is to not only have a good time talking with somebody, but to take something away from it, not only just from the movie, but from you yourself and the insight you brought with the research you did. I really appreciate that.
I really felt from the bottom of my heart that your listeners, your subscribers, and you deserved the best that I could give. And I really, really, truly, from the bottom of my heart, hope that this episode is something that causes you to want to learn more. To any of you listeners out there, I'm very active on social media, mainly Threads, some Facebook, some Instagram. Please look me up. I have no problem teaching if you'd like to learn.
Yeah, and even in our Sickos Club group that we have, you have not only taught myself, but I'm sure you've taught damn near everyone that we have come to embrace in that group. Because a lot of times we'll be talking and you will come in with insightful historical facts and just your experience. And I'm like, you know what? Thank you. I don't say it enough to you, but thank you for that. And thank you for this. And if anyone comes away from this episode not listening to what you said, not just hearing it, if you get what I'm saying, it's like, watch the movie, don't just see the movie. Listen to your words, not just hearing them. I don't know, if you walk away not listening, I maybe listen again. Go back and put it back on. Listen to this whole thing again.
Please.
There's a lot there. And I appreciate you taking the time to do this. It has been great, and you got an open invite to come back. You got an open invite to come back anytime. Whether it's something,
well, you better watch out now. I'll take that open invite. Look, I love me some horror.
Hey, I appreciate it, because there are times where I need a guest, and if I could reach out to somebody and figure it out, it's going to work out for me. Especially when
you can slap my name on that little rotation.
All right, I'm going to do that. Especially when something happens like this, where it's a natural conversation. This is when I know we've clicked on a level and can do this repeatedly, multiple times. Yep. Yeah, I was really excited to do this, and I'm glad it all worked out.
Me too.
So You said social media. Why don't you go ahead and plug your socials if you got anything else going on before we wrap this up completely?
You can search me out on either Facebook, Threads, or Instagram. Threads is my home. Uh, that's where you'll probably find the most real of me. Handle is Antoine Raphael.
I will put the link to your threads in the notes. If you have anything else you want me to link in there, I can. But yeah, for sure, I'll definitely put threads because that's where we first. I think that's where we first interacted, and then
I do have something in the works. I'm working on some poetry, so hopefully that's coming soon.
very nice. I'm excited to see it because I know you have a lot to say. You brought a lot to the table here this evening, and I know there's more to you, and I'm excited to see what the poetry is that you bring to us. 'Cause if anything, it's going to bring more light into this world, and you've lit up this show tonight with your presence. So thank you.
Thank you.
Deep down from the bottom of my heart to you, I appreciate this. I love it. Thank you.
I love you too.
All right. So once again, I want to thank Antoine Raphael for joining me to discuss Sinners. This was a lot of fun. I look forward to having Antoine back on the show because it brings a lot to the table, and I really appreciate that. It was a fun discussion. I'm glad we did this, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Make sure you go check Antoine out at his socials. Threads and Instagram will be linked in the show notes. As far as Skewered Universe, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, where we host the show. I do this so many times, you would think I would have it down by now. YouTube, you can go to our YouTube channel, Official Skewered Universe Podcast, find out the shows there, shorts, and all that. If you want to find all of our social media links, you can go over to skeweredhead.com where you can listen to the show, find all of our, as I said, social media links. That's Facebook, Instagram, Threads. We're also on UpScrolled. I haven't been able to link that yet, but I'll be doing that in the near future. There's also our link tree, and if you go to Patreon and search for Skewered Universe Podcast, you can support the show over there and get your hands on transmissions episodes, as well as audio commentary tracks. I also do a show every other Saturday now called Tales from the Podcast with my buddy JB. He started the show a while back, and I joined him a couple of years ago now, and it's been rolling right along. We are currently in season 9, I believe, of Are You Afraid of the Dark? So we're going through that entire series. We are getting close to finally being done with that and then moving on to something else. But go check us out over there. You can go to talesfromthepodcast.com for all the details on that. And while you're over there, you can check out our video game, Tales from the Podcast, the fucking video game, which is a retro-style RPG where you take control of JB and myself, and you go through Grungetown trying to stop some shitty motherfucker from making another terrible, terrible horror movie. You collect Pogs as currency. You get sodas and energy drinks as your power-ups. It's a lot of fun. $10 via Cash App or PayPal will get you the game. We will send you the file once we receive that. If you want access to the in-game cheat bot, that is another $5. That's right, $5. So $15 gets you the full game and in-game cheat bot access. It's a great deal. And while you're at talesfromthepodcast.com, I'm going to plug that again, you can also get your copies of Tales of Shock and Terror Volumes 1 and 2 while supplies last. I highly recommend you get them. I own both volumes, and they are fantastic. The artwork is great, and the stories are really, really good. Once again, talesfromthepodcast.com. Now, since I had Antoine on, and we are both proud members of Sickos Club, I want to go ahead and plug sickosclub.com. You can head over there. You can find merch. There are articles written by fellow Sickos Club members that are really in-depth about wrestling or just talking about the fun stuff of wrestling. And it's a positive take on wrestling. It's not talking about the negative stuff going on. It is very not WWE focused. There are some things about that, but it is very much more AEW, New Japan, and everything else not WWE. So if you want to be a sicko, go check that out. That is sickosclub.com. And as for us here in the Skewered Universe, we are done with First Watch February. We got 2 in, and that's pretty good. But as you know, March is coming up, and that is Leanne's birthday month, so we look forward to seeing what she is going to bring to the table for us to watch this year. But until then, keep your heads up. Make sure you check in on your people to make sure everyone's doing well, because there's been a lot of crazy stuff going on. So check in. If you need help, reach out. If your friends need help, make sure you're there for them, and try to keep enjoying that universe that's just a bit skewered.